Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to be doing this tag from Heather Reads. It's a brand new tag called the Cinderella tag, and I thought I would tie it into a book haul that I've had the last 2 weeks. A very tiny book haul because I've been trying not to buy too many books this year, but I'm really excited about these books and it tied really well into the Cinderella tag. The Cinderella tag is themed around, of course, the story of Cinderella. And I'm going to start with the last question because it relates to the books on the table here. So, last question in the Cinderella tag is the fairy godmother. If your fairy godmother could make 3 books appear in front of you right now, whether they exist or whether they don't exist and you've just dreamed them up, what would they be? And I was really happy to get these 3 books recently. So this is a book I have read before. It's The Painted Veil by W. Somerset Maugham. Now I've actually done a book review of this, I think it was in 2018, and it's not been that long ago, but I was really excited to read it again. I had such good memories of reading it the first time, and I really love this vintage Art Deco cover. This is really just a vintage classics paperback, so it was really inexpensive, but I really love the cover design, and I'm moving through this book very rapidly. I really like this bookmark as well. I think it kind of goes with the book. But yeah, I'm loving this reread of The Painted Veil. I will have so much to say about it soon. And I will also go back to my old review and kind of contrast and compare, what's the same or what thoughts have changed since that first review. So in case you're not familiar with this book, it's about this failed marriage. It's about these 2 people that should never have married each other, and the big catalyst for the start of the book is Kitty Fane and her infidelity, and then the rest of the book kind of goes over the aftermath of that as she and her husband, well, I'm not going to say, actually, I don't want to give too much away. I think the back of the book gives quite a lot away, and I think I won't do that here. But it's a page turner, so if you haven't read it, give it a try. It is very dated, definitely has some dated and I would say problematic stuff in it, but it's a very powerful character study, so loving it, loving the reread. The other book, and this one I was really pleasantly surprised to find in the local charity shop, but this is Foster by Claire Keegan, and I recently read Small Things Like These, which I had from the library, and I really liked it. I wouldn't say it was like a favorite book of all time or anything, but I feel like she's very good at the short form, She's very good at short stories and novellas, and that's what this is. It is a novella about a foster child, and I don't know a lot more about it than that, but I am looking forward to reading it. Claire Keegan is a contemporary author, literary author, and this was first published in 2010, so it's not super new, but it's pretty new compared to most books I'm reading these days. And speaking of which, I got a copy of El Filibusterismo, which I probably butchered the pronunciation of that. It's been a while since Spanish lessons. El Filibusterismo by Jose Rizal. And this is the sequel to his other novel, Noli Me Tangere, which I think I have talked about on the channel before, but I can't remember if I did. I don't think I did a full review of it. I really struggled to get through that book. And so you might be wondering, well, why did I pick up the sequel? Well, I think that that first book, while it was not the easiest read and wasn't even the pleasantest read, I think what stuck with me since then was just the fact that it existed at all. We don't have a lot of 19th century novels by people who had lived in colonized countries. And so it's really interesting to get that perspective. And I believe Joseph Francis Burton, whose channel I've been following for quite a while now, he had reviewed this book and thought it was really good. And by all accounts, this book sounds a lot better than the first one in terms of just the reading experience and maybe the plot and pacing. So we'll see, but I'm looking forward to reading this. And yeah, I mean, it's Penguin, so I'm happy that they did publish it. It's actually very difficult to find this book, even the Penguin edition of it, so that's gonna be probably later this year. It's a chunkster. I mean, all these 19th century novels are, but yeah, I am looking forward to reading the sequel to the first book. And just, it may not really have a lot to do with the first book. I can't remember if it does, but we shall see. Now, let's go to some of the other questions on this tag. So, going back to number 1, the first question in this tag is the pumpkin coach. Is there a bookish event or bookish location you've not been able to get to at all, or as much as you'd like to? Well, I am currently living in the UK, and I can tell you there's many bookish places I have yet to see, although I have stumbled across some unexpected ones, totally not even looking for them, and that's been really fun, especially when it's like the last thing in my mind, and then someone's like, oh, that famous author is associated with this place, or this building, you know, is associated with that author, and that's just been really neat. There's certainly some places I do want to go see in person, maybe in the next year or two, but right now, haven't made those plans yet. As far as events goes, this is more digital, but there was a time I was doing something called the Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and this was an event that was hosted in the blogging world, because before I got on Booktube, I was really into the blogging sphere, and I still am. I still blog a lot, but even more so back then. And I think from 2017 to 2019, I did the 24-hour readathon, which is exactly what it sounds like. You take 24 hours and you just read as much as you can. I never did the full 24 hours. I don't even know if I did a full 12, but it was fun, and I just don't know. I don't think there's ever going to be a good time to do that again, but it was a fun challenge, and maybe I would do like a shorter one, maybe a 12-hour. Anyway, it's in April for those of you interested, if you want to do it yourself. Okay, second question is, the mice turn to horses. Name up to 3 books that are small fry in the book world but mean a lot to you. Or name an author who needs more publicity, and you can help bolster their reputation on Booktube. So I always expect to think that everyone's read Kafka, and it's just very, run of the mill. But I guess I have been surprised how many people haven't read Kafka or the Metamorphosis specifically, which is my favorite book of all time. I remember somebody recently asking me what my favorite book was, and I said the Metamorphosis, and it was quite clear that they didn't know what I was talking about. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. One of my favorite reading experiences of the Metamorphosis was during the pandemic. This group of us got together online and we just read the whole thing in like 4 hours, and we would rotate, so one person would read one section, the next person would read another, and so on. Anyway, I guess I didn't think this was like an underrated / lesser known classic, and I don't think it is, but I actually do think there might be quite a lot of people that haven't read it at all, and maybe they've read The Trial or something else by Kafka, or maybe they just don't think it'll be their cup of tea, but I just think this is probably one of his most accessible works, and it's certainly, to me, his most important and famous for a reason. So yeah, I don't know if this really counts, but I would say The Metamorphosis, my favorite book of all time. I feel very comfortable saying that at this point, even though in past years I never wanted to have a favorite book. Love The Metamorphosis, very, very special to me. More people need to read it if they haven't yet. Another favorite of mine that I've read recently is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Again, I don't think it's obscure as such, but I think that if you compare it to some of the other Victorian classics, I don't think it gets as much attention, and maybe it's because it's a sensationalist novel, or was, but I still think it's really good, even apart from that. I don't think it's pure sensationalism. I think there's more going on in it, and again, has some really great characters and psychological study. I did sort of a documentary style video on it a while ago, and I'll link to that below, but that book is just one of my perennial favorites. I've read it now twice. I think the first time I kind of skimmed through it a bit in some places because it does drag in parts, but the second time I read it very thoroughly, and I'm already like thinking about reading it again. So I love The Woman in White. The third book that's definitely not going to be on anyone's list is Paris in the 20th Century by Jules Verne. Now this book, I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about it in any shape or form, and it is Jules Verne's vision of the world as it would be in 1964, and I think he published it in 1864, and it was lost for a long time, and then they rediscovered it in the 90s, and they translated it then and published it. So I've read it a couple of times in the past, and it really reveals a lot about Jules Verne's fears for the future. Some of his other works are very optimistic and exciting and jubilant even, but this book is quite dark and certainly reveals his, I would say, conservative viewpoints. And by conservative, I just mean this fear about new things, not just fear though, but like this desire to maintain the way things are. And I don't mean this in any kind of negative way, because one of the most beautiful parts of the book is the fact that the main character loves literature and poetry, and yet he is looked down upon because he doesn't want to be a techie. And doesn't that feel familiar sometimes? Like, even as a techie myself, I do think sometimes people can falsely look down on the arts as less important. And this, I think, is a long-standing problem in American culture. And I say that because I took a whole class on early American literature, and there were certainly strands of this thinking back then as well, like focusing on the practical things, Anyway, that's a whole tangent, but Paris in the 20th century, whether you agree with Jules Verne or not, or you think he was being a bit paranoid or needlessly worried, still think it's a very powerful book. And it's just fun. It's actually just fun as well to see his predictions about the future. All right, number 3, The Glass Slipper. Name a book you loved, but you either gave away / lost, left behind, and now you feel you need to replace it. So this is a pretty easy one for me. I ended up giving a number of books to my brother, just whatever he wanted to take, and my mindset at the time was, I think I'm at the point where, because I was moving, I just was fine with him taking, even the books that maybe I thought I should keep, especially the ones that are easily replaced, right? And so the book that I think I will replace first from that particular batch is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I've read it twice before, and it's become more impactful to me since the second reading. And it's one of those that I would recommend to everyone, and I think it's a book I'll just read every so often because I do find it very challenging and comforting at the same time, which is kind of rare. Okay, and then question number 4, The Ball Gown. Name a book you have not read, but what you've heard about it makes you think it will fit you perfectly. So there's this book I've been eyeing and may be getting soon if I can justify it, but it's called Mrs. Bridge, and the author is someone I've never heard of before, Evan Connell. And Mrs. Bridge is a series of vignettes about this woman who is living in, I guess, mid-century America. Actually, I don't know if it's America or Britain. I will have to look that up. But basically, it's just a set of sketches about this middle-class housewife and just her experiences of marriage, raising her kids and stuff. And, it's supposed to be a bit of a social commentary. Not all is as good as it appears on the surface, and she has a lot of frustrations that are revealed in the book. But what kind of really draws me to it well, apart from being written in vignettes, which I really, really like, the second part I think that draws me to it is there's a companion book called Mr. Bridge, and it's from the husband's perspective. So if I like Mrs. Bridge, I do plan to read the other perspective, and yeah, I like this. I like the book being premised on like very simple everyday life issues. Is very interesting to me, the time period and the two perspectives. So that should be fun. Well, this was also fun. Thank you, Heather, for the tag. I'll tag a few people in the comments, of course, as usual. If anybody wants to read it, feel free to do it and let me and Heather know. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for watching. Bye.